Today I'm going to talk about something that is very close to my heart, and that is learning. Because no matter what your age or your background or your past, it's never too late to learn something new. Some people think that learning is for the young, that once you've hit a certain age, then you're supposed to settle. But I've found the opposite to be true. I believe that by continuing to learn, it keeps you curious, keeps you alive, and it keeps you young. And it also keeps your brain going. I've probably learned more in the last 10 or 20 years than I did in my 30s. In 1990, I started doing a bachelor's degree. And I did that in linguistics, and then in 2021 I completed a master's degree in social anthropology. I've explored so many different things in my attempts to continue learning. And every time I learn something new, I believe that I feel like I'm growing wings. But it's just not about skills. I find that when you're learning, I just love learning. I'm a bit of a sponge when it comes to learning about soaking up knowledge. It gives me confidence. It also helps you to discover new parts of yourself. Often you sort of think back to times in the past. While you're learning, you keep remembering things that have happened in past years, and it brings back things that you've learned and sort of reinforces those things in your mind. And I believe too, by learning, it's what keeps your mind, it keeps life exciting. Now, I'm not saying that you've got to go out and start learning, doing a university degree. It can start in small ways, just taking on a new craft, something that you've always wanted to do. I've had this funny thing through my life. I've never been happy until I've been satisfied that I can do something. I learned to knit when I was a kid. I taught myself to crochet not long after I got married. I also learned how to sew. I watched somebody, and my mum used to sew a lot, and I used to watch her a lot. So I decided one day that I was going to I can't remember what it was I made for myself. And I remember cutting an old piece of clothing that I had. I unstitched it all and used that as the basis for my pattern, and cut out new material, and I think it was a pair of rompers or something like that for school. So that was how I taught myself to sew. And then over the years I learned how to sew from patterns that you bought from the shop, and I become, quite good at sewing. I sewed all my kids' clothes. I used to make all my own, but that's of course before clothes become, cheap that you could buy in the shops like they are now. Another thing too that I remember while I was married, when we'd bought this house that needed such a lot of work doing, I decided I wanted to learn how to hang wallpaper. I knew the basic principles of hanging wallpaper, about plumb lines and all that sort of thing, and about whether you use pattern papers or non-pattern papers, because if you use patterned ones to match up the patterns, it takes up a lot more wallpaper. So in the process of doing up this old house that we bought, I went through the whole place and wallpapered it by myself. I did all the painting as well. I plastered one ceiling and painted all that. So that was something else that I taught myself just from watching other people. In those days, you couldn't just go onto YouTube or anything like that and do a search and learn how to do it. I'd seen Mum doing it in the past. Mum used to do wallpapering. It must be a female thing in our family, I think. But I'd learned how to wallpaper, went through and did all the wallpapering, and that was it was a 3-bedroom house. I did all the bedrooms, I did the lounge, and the lounge in the dining room, and the kitchen was painted. That wasn't wallpaper. So I was never happy until I learned that I could do that. It's been a long time now since I've wallpapered a house, but at least I know that if I was able to do it physically, at least I know how to do it. So that was sort of, I guess, back in the 80s when I learned how to do that. Over recent years, it hasn't been so much as learning how to do those sorts of things like trades, or it's more a matter of brain learning for me. One of the things that I've always tried to do is I always wanted to learn another language. I've never ever succeeded in learning another language. I managed to get a few sentences and a few words, but I think over the years, I think as a kid I started with Italian, and of course Maori being the language here in New Zealand. I can do a little few words on that, but I could never hold a conversation. I've at one stage learnt a little bit of Japanese. I can do greetings and farewells in Japanese, but that's all. And then Spanish, I think, was the latest one that I tried to learn. I did that because I went on a holiday to South America, to Peru and Chile and to Bolivia, and I wanted to try and learn a little bit of Spanish. I thought I was doing well until I got there, and then I realised I was pretty useless anyway. But it was all good exercise. It was good fun, and I enjoyed that learning process. As for physical achievements, I've never really been a physical person. Unfortunately, I'm not sort of that coordinated to be a good dancer, and I'm not physically able to be a good athlete. I've played sports when I was young. I played netball, played indoor basketball, and schoolgirl cricket and things like that. And I enjoyed that learning process, but I was never sporty. I was never graced with a lot of ability, unfortunately. So that was something that I was never able to continue on with. But just over the years, it's just been a matter of just continuing to learn. I enjoyed it when I was at university, learning linguistics. I learnt when I went to learning how to do social anthropology. That was good. I enjoyed the research side of that. I would probably still like to do some studying at university, but there's just too many more things that I want to do. I've spent enough years doing that, and at this stage, I think I've sort of done my dash on higher learning. One of the things I've learned is how to do YouTube videos. That's learning how to film, how to doing editing, and learning all about how you present your videos. And of course, by the quality of the videos I'm putting out, you can see I'm still very much in the learning phase, but I enjoy it. I like the learning, and I'll keep on doing it. Hopefully one day I'll be able to do some real top class videos, but in the meantime I just keep churning out the ones that I do and trying to make each one a little bit better than the last one. So that's basically the reason why I enjoy learning so much. I've always been a bit of a seeker of knowledge. I've always been a reader, love to read, and that's something that I'm going to be doing a little bit more of from now on. Is I'm looking at, well, just a different angle I'm looking at for reading, and if I sort of get that up and away and it's successful in what I'm planning to do, I'll make a mention of it on here. But that's just another thing that I'm in the process of learning at the moment. That's basically it. I just encourage people, if you find you've got time on your hands, if you're feeling a bit bored, especially as you get older and you think that, what am I going to do with my day? What can I do? I strongly encourage you to try and learn a skill that you've never done before. You don't have to learn it to make huge, big, beautiful things out of it. It's just the fact of learning the skill that is so important. I remember one of the other things that I taught myself was macrame, and I thought, surely it's only tying knots. I mean, how hard can that be? And that's true. It is just tying knots. But I learnt so much about making macrame, and I made some wonderful hangers for pots and things like that. I don't think I've got any of them left now, unfortunately. And it's probably not something that I fancy sort of going back to, but at the time I just loved it. It's just about tying knots with string. Well, that's what it seemed like at the time anyway. So I strongly encourage you, it doesn't matter what age you are, is if you're feeling a little bit lost in wondering what you can do to fill in some time, just see if you can find something that, like a skill, like knitting if you've never knitted before, or crocheting, or anything like that. I mean, it's very easy to go to op shops and pick up knitting needles and odd balls of wool and things like that, just to get yourself started. And I just truly recommend that it doesn't matter what skill it is. It's worth it just to keep the mind going and to keep that opportunity going of being able to keep learning. I know with men, whether you're into trades and tools and all that sort of thing, whether you've got no interest or have never had interest in anything like that. So I can't really speak for men on the sort of things that they would like to learn. But still, if it's something there that you've always wanted to do, why not get out and have a go at it and just see what you can do? It's never too late. It's never too late to start learning, to learn whatever it is that you want to do. So that's my just encouragement for the day, is just to get out there and see what you can do for yourself. And I promise you'll be so pleased with yourself. It's so rewarding, and I can vouch for that too. So that's my little bit for the day. If you've got any comments that you'd like to make, I'd love to hear from you. If you've got some skill that you've started or something that you'd like to start and have thought for a long time that you'll do it but you've never got round to it, let me know if there's anything there that has been something that you've always wanted to do and just think, well, now just might be the time I can get on and do that. I'd love to hear from you. So thank you for listening. Thank you for stopping by. If this is the first time you've been here, thank you for dropping by. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. And I will wish you all a good weekend. I will say take care, stay safe, and I'll catch you on the next one. Okay, bye.